Everybody, Isaiah Colton here and Brian Curtis back with another session of lead gen and conversion mastery. We are live in our Facebook group, and we're excited to talk to you about part two, common mistakes that team leaders make when they're managing their lead process. And we're going to really hone in and focus on lead conversion. Big question if the first time you're watching this live in the Facebook group, maybe you're asking yourself, why the heck should I listen to you guys on the topic of lead gen and lead conversion? It's common. I totally would understand if you're asking that question. Brian Curtis and I collectively, over 30 years of experience of building teams. As far as lead generation go, hundreds of thousands of leads we've generated for our teams, and literally, fine tune the process of going from lead generation to lead conversion to make sure you're getting an ROI on your team. And we're just very passionate talking about this topic because for a lot of teams out there that are building teams, this could be the difference between you having a thriving business and being profitable and not, if you don't get this process right. It can be one of the big different, there's a lot of things, but this is a big one, right, Brian? So let's just talk about this, Brian. I want to ask you the first question, if just starting to kicking the conversation off here, what do you see is one of the biggest mistakes you see team leaders make going from the point of where they have the right amount of leads coming in per agent, but now they got to make sure that it actually turns into, deals and profitability. So let's talk about what you're seeing happening here with teams when it comes to lead conversion and managing this process.
Yeah, the number one thing I see, and this is not going to be a popular conversation, so I want to talk about it from the perspective of as a single agent and as a team leader, because, any position you don't have in your organization, it's you. If you don't have a transaction coordinator, it's you. If you don't have a lead manager, it's you. What you just fill in X. So I also believe this applies to the single agent as well. The only difference is you don't have anybody to hold you accountable. So to me, the number one thing is accountability and being willing to enforce accountability. I'm going to tell on myself. So I don't like to do this. I don't want to call Isaiah if he's on my team and go, hey, Isaiah, we gave you 50 leads last month. How come you didn't do your part? Which is in essence what you're doing when you're enforcing accountability. So one of the things that we've done, I think, has helped quite a bit is we actually have a third-party lead manager. And what I mean by that is it's a virtual assistant, and that virtual assistant has a set of rules that she follows. And by the way, you might get your lead reassigned. And here's the beauty of it. There's no emotion in this anymore. I've got a person who's literally not in our country, who's got an SOP to follow, standard operating procedure to follow, and she follows that procedure. So if your lead got reassigned to you because you didn't take the activities that you were supposed to take, she didn't make a decision. If I could have a computer do it, in essence, I'm having a computer do it. It's just that there's a human being involved in there as well.
Sure.
So we have to follow up, and it's interesting. I was thinking about this statistic as we were sitting in the green room. When I talked to Zillow, and again, I'm not here to talk good or bad about Zillow, but this is a really interesting piece of information. According to Zillow, and I'm going to assume for our conversation, they told us the truth. Before they switched to that call center that they put in place, 5-6 years ago, I don't remember what it was. They said, according to their customers, according to their data, that 47% of leads never even got a phone call. I want you to think about that.
What the fudge? 47% never got a freaking phone call?
Never got one. I mean, granted, at least 53% of the people did get a phone call. But I want you guys to think about this. This is not a $3 Facebook lead.
Right.
This is a $100 lead.
Yeah, this is a cell phone bill a month per lead, or a car payment per lead in some cases, right? It's
yeah, and we're 5-6 years ago, so they're probably $150 to $250 a lead, depending on your market. But I don't know about you. You get four $250 leads. We just spent $1,000. This is not a proposition. And I'm just going to use half. I won't use, just to make it simple. Half those people never received a phone call. So here's the rest of our reality. Isaiah, I'm sure this has happened to you. If it didn't happen today, it happened sometime this week. You got a text message or a phone call that was spam, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do I know that? Well, because you're alive, you're in America, and you own a cell phone. That's how I know that. Outside of that, I don't need any more information than that.
Yeah.
So I want you to think about this. That happens to each and every one of us every day, whether you're in the lead gen business or not. So it used to be I could call somebody 2 or 3 times and they'd answer the phone. I could send them a text message. Hey, this is Brian Curtis. Are you inquired about some real estate? Oh, great. Yeah, that's awesome. We can do that. And they would respond. Now I'm competing not against my other realtors. I'm not competing against I'm literally competing against every spammer in the United States. And I know it sounds like a crazy thing to say, but we've got to get through. So a couple of things that I think that we need to look at from a follow-up perspective. 5 years ago, I kind of didn't want you to know I was a real estate agent when I was calling you. I don't know how you felt about that.
Oh yeah, the opening was opening. There's like 3 or 4 questions, right? That kind of came out, and then the real estate professional language would come out after that. You definitely would want to get a little bit farther in the conversation. Yep.
Today, we've moved up in hierarchy. They would rather talk to us than someone selling health insurance, someone for the student loan they don't have anymore, the car insurance for the car they sold 3 years ago. So we've actually moved up a couple of tiers in design ability, right? I mean, I know that sounds like a funny way to put that. So what's my point? My point is this. I used to get a lead, call that lead, and the lead answered the phone approximately 20% of the time. So theoretically, I had to call each lead 5 times to get them on the phone. Great. Now what's the reality? We were doing a mastermind the other day, and the person running the mastermind said this is one reach out for me. Text, phone call, email. That's 1, not 3, by the way. That's 1. What does this mean? That means realistically, we have to tell people who we are. Hey, I'm a real estate agent and I'm reaching out to you because you reached out to me. Right. Oh, okay. That's less offensive. So we have to be doing that. We have to be sending that. If you're not reaching out a minimum of 15 times in the first couple of weeks, you're not going to have a success. And no one wants to hear that, but that's the reality.
I want to pause there. I want to hope the audience heard this because this is so important. First of all, we have to redefine what we call an outreach. We're I think a lot of teams that have been doing this for a long time are programmed to call an outreach a phone call. We've been programmed for years and years and years because that's how we did it, right? But that's the old way of doing it now. And we have to reprogram or rejuvenate our policy and our process of what's called an outreach. And I hope you heard what Brian said, right? How we define it, it's a little bit different, depending on the team, but how we train and coach it, it's minimally a call, a text, an email, right? And potentially a couple other outreaches. And that's one outreach. That's one. And then you do that again for up to 15 times, right? So I know everyone trains at frequency a little bit different. We do it 10. I think, Brian, you train 15 or do it 15. And then we go to long-term outreach. But the point is that a phone call is not enough anymore. It's a complete multi-channel outreach. That's what you have to do. So I'm hoping if you're listening to this or you're watching this, you pick that up because you're going to lose your shirt. You're going to lose your shirt. You're going to lose a lot of freaking money. Okay. And you're going to be disappointed and you're going to be distraught and you're going to be disgruntled and you're going to be depressed if you don't change your strategy. Anything else you'd like to add on that point?
It's just math, guys. At the end of the day, you need the same number of conversations to have the same number of closings. The problem is we stopped having the same number of conversations and we still expected to have the same number of closings. And those of you who have been licensed for 5 years or less, I want to challenge you to do this. Go from June of 2020 to June of 2022 and delete everything you learned in there because it no longer applies. And I mean, it sounds like a joke, but I'm not kidding. Delete what you learned there because none of the things that we did there apply anymore. I'm sure there's something, but ultimately you need to think like someone who's in 2024, not like 2022, 2021, or 2020, because those were anomalies and they're going to continue to be anomalies. So that which you learned back then, dump that and come back, jump into 2024. It's important.
Yeah. And I think that's a whole other podcast that we could do. But sometimes unlearning and relearning, right? And being willing to be at all times a sponge, like a tree, just soaking it up at all times and paying attention to what's happening and being willing to relearn skills. I mean, Brian, I don't know about you, but I've had to relearn certain skills when it comes to marketing and sales and building teams, several times throughout throughout 10 years. You've been doing it 20, so yours even longer, right? So I just, there's so much wisdom there. I'm hoping you guys picked up, being willing to relearn and reprocess. And sometimes the way that you were doing it, even though it was right then, it's not right now. It's not the best way now.
Yeah.
So,
I did an interview yesterday with a company who I believe is an innovator. And it's one of the things that I said. So the guy was interviewing me, said, why do you stay with this company? And I said, plain and simple, they're always trying to be ahead of the curve. Yep. If you're an agent and you're trying to catch up constantly, that's how you're going to spend your career, and it's going to be frustrating. You have to figure out what's working in 2024 and immediately implement that. Don't do 2022, 19, 18, 7. You need to get rid of that. Things are different. And do I like that? No. I liked it when it was like the way it was before, but nobody asked me. I'm not going to, my opinion's not going to matter.
You know what I love about this conversation? I know that there's a whole group of people right now are thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, like, you really call people, text them, email them, and text them again all one day, or whatever pattern you follow. I know there's a lot of people thinking about that right now. And here's the message. Okay. If everyone thinks it's a good idea and is doing it, you're too late. Mm-hmm. We're sharing something with you that probably less than 10% of the market is adopted to. And so if you're challenging it, if it's a challenge in your mind, it probably means you should try it, because you have a small group of people that have been testing this for a year or two now and have found a new and better way to make it work. AI is another conversation, right? There's a whole they're going to wait on the sideline before they try AI texting or before they try AI voice, right? They're going to sit on the sideline, and then all of a sudden they're going to pop their head up. And when the majority of people are doing it, you're too late. You've lost your competitive advantage. So I think that's another important point too. Try it. Try this idea.
And so I actually think as we were talking, I also want to take a step back.
Yep.
Conversations are gold today. Again, my math is that I used to be at about a 20% answer rate, and now I'm 7-8%. So what does that mean? I'm going to do creative math here. It's about triple the amount of dials to get the same number of people on the phone. Okay.
Yep.
So I want you to think about this. When you get on the phone, how valuable is that conversation? Because this is, our topic is the mistakes that team leaders are making. So what is the mistake that team leaders are making? They're not listening to their phone calls of their agents. And if you're an agent who's not a team leader, you're not listening to your own phone calls. And they're like, Brian, I know exactly what I said. No, you don't. Right. Go back and listen to yourself, and you're going to go, holy crap, I said that? Yes, that's what you said. And here's two things I want to point out. The first one is, just because it worked didn't mean that that's something that's good. We talk about this a lot. Yeah. Just because you got the appointment didn't mean that you made a good phone call. Sometimes people, you could have told them, go directly to hell. Great, see you at the house at 2:00. That still doesn't make that a good script. It just means that somehow in that one case it worked. So here's what I want to point out. What are your intro scripts? Intro scripts are vital today. Why? Because again, I've only got a 7-8% answer rate. Yeah. So that old saying, or you've said it, I've said it, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So what are you doing with your intro script? I'm going to give you my intro script. Dale Archdeacon and I work on this together. We talk about this all the time. And it's real simple. Hey, this is Brian Curtis with Curtis Realty Group. I'm reaching out today because you made an inquiry on our website. I was wondering, are you looking to make a move soon, or are you just window shopping? Now, I want to point out the second thing. 9 out of 10 people are going to say just window shopping. What we're doing with that script, by the way, is saying it's okay to say no to me.
Yep.
It relieves the pressure of that. And so they're like, oh, no, I'm just window shopping. Perfect. Now I can go and do something else. If I do this, hey, when were you thinking of making a move? I'm not moving. I'm not interested. Go away. But when I give them they know, they're like, oh, this person isn't going to sell me anything. Yes, I am, but at least I don't want them to think that I'm selling them something in the first 5 seconds. I want to be on their team. I want it to be okay if they don't buy.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. So I think that, this whole, I haven't really thought about it that way. It's really interesting. The ability, because the ability to have conversations on the phone is harder. It takes more to get them. It's even more important that we have the right scripts and dialogues to have the best conversation possible. I think it's a really, really interesting point. I don't know if a lot of people are thinking about it that way. That's really powerful. And listening to the calls, right? So I think if I heard, huge mistake team leaders are making is there's nobody there examining the call, right? Nobody's listening to the call, if it's been effective. And then if I'm hearing you, having a process in place to make sure that, the agents are able to improve their skill sets and look at their process and get better, as a result of analyzing the call. One of the things that sorry, Brian, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's so important. But then you have to practice, right? You're going to make a mistake. I'm going to make a mistake. Isaiah's going to make a mistake. The question is, isn't when we made a mistake. The question is, are we going to practice so we don't make the same mistake again? Yeah,
that's so good. One of the things that we do is we have a process in place for our team, and we recommend that any team structure that if you're a team leader, you have to have a systematic process where you're able to reconnect with your agents at a certain frequency. What I see is that we have these group meetings or these group trainings, right? And we throw out this awesome new idea or this motivational, we have this motivational powwow, or we say we should be doing this, right? And while that's better than not having a meeting at all, or like not having a training at all, that individual one-on-one touch point where you have some sort of process to help your agents reach their full potential, I believe is the difference maker on a team. Because if you're not actively looking at your agent's mindset, their activities, and helping them with their skill sets, to me, that should be the standard of a team leader, right? Like that's the responsibility of a team leader, is to help them with that process. And there's no better way to do that than having a one-on-one. Some people do it every other week. Some teams do it every week. And then having some sort of scorecard or some sort of progress journal. This is what I see too. Another mistake I see when these meetings happen. We have these great conversations, right? This and that, and then there's no action steps. And then there's like no plan, right? There's no systematic process or plan or commitment on the agent's behalf of what's going to change from one week to the next, right? And I know this is probably a whole nother call of how to actually have a session like this, right? But that one-on-one coaching session is another mistake I see a lot of team leaders make. They don't take the time and the initiative to do that one-on-one coaching session, looking at mindset, activities, and skill sets. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Brian.
Yeah, I would say this, at a minimum, I like where Isaiah went with the one-on-one, but at a minimum, I'm going to suggest that you do what I call the middle of the month meeting. And that's basically just looking at, are you meeting the team standard? It's the middle of the month. Okay. You have at least one deal under contract in mind. Have you made at least X number of phone calls or reach outs, however you guys define that? And if not, what can we do to help you? Because here's what I see so many team leaders do. It's February 28th. Oh crap, we didn't have a good month. Well, it's really hard to fix it on February 28th. My machine broke, so I got to do things in the present. So it's really hard to do that. So, but why wait? Get people. And by the way, your agents, they want accountability. And if they don't, you got the wrong agents. And I know that sounds like a pretty harsh thing to say, but at the end of the day, if we look at real estate agents on teams, they didn't want to go on their own, or couldn't succeed on their own, didn't like being on whatever it is. But for whatever reason, they're going to give you a percentage of their commission. What
Right.
are you giving them in return? Well, one of the things that you should be giving them is a plan. And there's a law about energy. One of the laws is that the simplest thing is always more powerful than the complex
Mhm.
thing. So that's something I want you guys to consider as you're thinking about this. Is my system so complex that I have to go to college just to be able to run the silly thing? Or is it a system that is simple? Because I want you to think about this. The average real estate agent, I believe, is a 52-year-old woman. That's no reflection on women or men. That's not my point
Yeah.
there. But the majority of people did not get in this industry to become a tech expert. They
Yep.
didn't get in the industry. What do they want to do? They want to talk to people and be social and show houses and do that. That's what they want. Now, there's some things we have to do to get there. But think about this. If I can give you a simple process to follow every single day, isn't that going to be a lot more powerful than some gigantic convolution of something? Now, here's what I didn't say. I didn't say it was going to be easy. I just said it
Yep.
was going to be simple.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the process. Here's a list of people you need to call. Here's when you need to call them. Here's the frequency. All that stuff. Just follow these rules, and then you do your part. And I think sometimes we try and make this more complex. We have conversations. We go on appointments. We write contracts. We go to closing. That's what we do as real estate agents. If you're making it significantly more complex, are you really supporting your agent?
Yeah, that's really important. There's such power and simplicity in a world of noise and confusion and just so many different options, and it's really easy to get distracted from the things that are important. And so having a simple duplicatable process, I think there's such good wisdom to that. All right, we're right at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We hope you got value out of this live lead gen and conversion masterclass that we did. If you're listening to this on the podcast later, we'd love your support. If you liked what we had to share, please get the word out there. And also just so you know, Brian and I are partnered on a venture called Growth CEO, where we help you develop an operational blueprint to build and scale a multi-million-dollar team. And there's a lot of great coaching out there, but most coaching out there is not designed necessarily to help you learn how to become a team leader or what I call an executive or CEO. And that's kind of what Brian specializes in. I specialize in helping people make that transformation. And also it's not just a mastermind. You also have options to do one-on-one coaching with Brian. He was coached some of the top teams in the country. If I said their names, you would know them. You would know their names. So we'll drop the link here if you want to check that out. Also, make sure go check out Brian's social media channels. He's putting out tons of content, awesome content. Stay in touch with Brian. He's also on Lab Coats. And then we will see you next week at the same time, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, going live in this private Facebook group. And Brian, thanks again for an awesome chat here today. We'll see everybody next week.
Thanks, Isaiah.
Bye.